This is the latest movie by Bruce Beresford, a man who's been around for a long time. But I just went through his credits and I don't think I've actually seen any of his earlier movies. But I've been meaning to watch Mr. Church with Eddie Murphy for a few years now, but I never got around to it. I even meant to watch it right before this one, but then I forgot. So yeah, not familiar with his past work, but if this one's any indication, I should give it a look. Because I think this might just be my feel-good movie of the month right here. It's set in Australia in the 50s and it's about these women working at a department store. It focuses mostly on this young girl, but there's a bunch of other women too. All of them in different phases of their lives and in different situations with different issues. And considering how many issues these people have, it's remarkable how uplifting this movie is. Because it never dwells on the negativity and it always finds a way to turn it into something positive. And it just ended up putting me in a really good mood and it's just a wonderful little movie. But it does also bring up some interesting and less than jolly aspects of Australian life back then. Like the whole immigrant situation with refugees from Eastern Europe, and how women in general were treated as something lesser than men, and how uneducated people could be about certain things. So it brings up all these things and deals with them to a certain degree. It doesn't just brush over them, but at the end of the day they all get solved and everyone's happy. Which probably isn't too realistic, but for some reason I didn't mind it. To be honest, in that way this almost feels like a fantasy movie. Like there are these bad things about society, things that shouldn't be. So wouldn't it be wonderful if all those things would just be resolved and everyone lived happily ever after? Well, that's essentially how this movie approaches it, and it does work. It's just a delightful movie, and the fact that it doesn't just focus on one character is great too. It keeps things interesting and you get to see all these different scenarios play out. And yeah, it's also sweet and touching and pulls at the old heartstrings too. But that's not to say it's perfect either. I especially had a bit of an issue with the character portrayal in this. There are 2 or 3 of the men that are basically portrayed as varying degrees of oblivious, bumbling morons. Not in a malicious way, but still, can we try to write characters instead of caricatures, please? Granted, there were a couple of them that weren't portrayed as idiots, but they were instead almost taken too far on the other end of the spectrum. And the same goes for the women too. They all basically had just one mode, one defining characteristics, and that's who they were. The fashionista, the bookworm, the one looking for love, the matriarch, the oblivious mom, the one who can't get pregnant. Now it's fine to have these defining characteristics, it's actually really good. It makes them memorable and distinct, but that shouldn't be all they are. There should ideally be a lot more nuance and depth to them. So overall the character writing in this was a bit lackluster. That being said, it didn't really take anything away from my enjoyment of the movie. But my point is, if these characters were a bit more fleshed out and more three-dimensional, this thing would have had a lot more depth and could have been even better. On the other hand, that would make it a very different movie. And you'd either have to make it a lot longer or cut out some of the characters. Focus on only 1 or 2 instead, and yeah, that would take away some of the charm. So maybe this thing is just fine the way it is. Not every movie needs to be super complex, but would I recommend it? Absolutely. It's a heartwarming and charming little movie, so go watch it. Or don't. I'm not your dad.